Cool. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the session. Like Jimmy said, I'm the host and my name is Tilly. I have CF and also CF diabetes. I'm part of the CF Trust Youth Advisory Group, which is very cool. And when I'm a little bit older, I want to be a theatre director. So I'm really excited to be hosting this today. Do you guys just want to go around and kind of say your names and like your kind of experience in the industry a little bit? Just introduce yourselves. Helen, do you want to start?
Hi, I'm Helen. I'm an animator and illustrator. I did an illustration degree and I became an animator a few years ago. That's a brief overview.
Cool. Lucy?
Yeah, I'm Lucy, a broadcast journalist currently at the BBC, and also have a couple of podcasts, as well as hosting the CF Trust podcast. And I guess we'll go into it in more detail how I got into that and how I got started.
Jack?
Hey, my name is Jack. I'm an actor and theatre director, I guess, as well as kind of dancing around other roles as well. I trained at drama school and then graduated working as an actor, and then quite quickly found a particular area of interest in movement and physical theatre, like breath-led theatre, and then have spiraled off into like dance practice and movement direction and theatre creation, but we'll get onto it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for being part of the panel. Our first question, which you've kind of already answered, which is tell us about your career, but it's also how did you get started, if you haven't already said. So yeah, Helen.
I just unmuted my mic. I did a foundation straight out of school because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with creativity. I just knew I liked drawing, and then I went into illustration straight away. But it took me a few years to get started in the creative industry because at first I was quite interested in like creativity and health, and I was doing a lot of workshops like Mind Charity and at the hospitals and things like that. But then unfortunately I got furloughed from my then job during COVID, and I didn't have a job and I wasn't sure what to do, and I just kind of like relinked back with myself and just thought, what is it that I actually want to do? Like, where are my passions? And yeah, so I got a job in design and then became an animator, and that's where I am now.
Cool. Lucy?
So I started nearly 5 years ago. So currently I work on 2 TV programmes, BBC Breakfast and also the 1 o'clock news that the BBC put out at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So they're all kind of news led. So the career, if I tell you a bit about the career first, so my job involves finding people with important and interesting stories, and to tell them to a larger audience. Also responding to breaking news so that our audience can be the first to know what's happening and to make sure that it is factual, up to date and accurate. It's incredibly fast paced. We talk to a lot of people. It's always busy. It's always changing. But I guess I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I was at school, but knew I wanted it to be linked with communicating and talking to people. And then when I was in my second year or first year of college and was looking around universities at various degrees like languages and things like that, I just couldn't sit down and write the personal statement to apply for uni. I just didn't know why I wanted to do it. So I'd seen Liverpool University, really enjoyed it there, and then basically did the communication and media course there. Did some work experience at BBC Breakfast, so it's kind of like a full circle for me. And then after university, did a master's in broadcast journalism in Salford, and that was during the pandemic. So yeah, I was shielding, but also nowhere was letting you get experience, so you had to think creatively. So I set up my own podcast called From a Lancashire Lass, which talks about businesses and celebrities and people from Lancashire, and freelanced in local radio when we could go back out into the world. And then, yeah, I've been at BBC Breakfast for nearly 3 years now. So done a bit of radio, done some newspapers and print, and I'm on national TV and radio now. So, yeah, very busy.
That's amazing. Thank you. Jack?
Yeah, it's so like it's so cool to like hear everyone's stories. I think um similarly to a lot of people, the kind of path into the creative industries are not always necessarily like the most linear. Takes unexpected twists and turns, and mine's no different. I'll try and keep it as quick as possible. But basically, when I was growing up, I was in and out of hospital doing IVs and that sort of thing. And a way that I passed the time, I used to watch theatre shows on my laptop, just on my like hospital bed and that sort of thing. And also Father Ted, bizarrely, because lots of 13-year-olds are into Father Ted apparently. And so yeah, that was happening, and I managed to get my health into a place where I was able to like go to drama school, and I trained because I kind of knew I was one of those slightly frustrating people who knew what they wanted to be from quite a young age, which I know is not everyone, and you don't need to actually, but that was one advantage I did have. I did know. So I went to university, and the first job that I got was about a year after graduating. I graduated in 2019, just before COVID. So I spent a year working in a very posh retail store that will remain nameless, selling perfume. And then I got the break, which was a show called Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett. And I realized that the guy who I was in that with was the actor from Father Ted, who I grew up watching. And I had a little meltdown. And there was this really full circle weird moment where I'm at the pub with this guy after rehearsal, and I spoke about my CF journey with him and all this, and he really kind of took me under his wing, and we've been rehearsing this thing for like 3 months. I'm really living the dream, and I don't want to kind of play the violin too much, but I really was living the dream, until we're quite late into rehearsal, and I realized that he's not learning his lines at all for this show. And I'm worshipping this guy, and I just said, maybe you need to think about learning your lines soon. And he just turns on me and just goes really intense, why do you think I'm not learning my lines? And I'm going, and it's like I just shrink, and he slides this newspaper across, and he goes, read that, and something about a pandemic, something about we're all going to die or something. I don't know. But I didn't think much of it. I mean, I'm just living the dream, and we went to our first venue, which was in Hastings, this 1,000 seat theatre. I mean, in my mind, I was like, I've made it. This is what I've dreamed of. And the guy said, welcome, cast of Waiting for Godot. You've sold 3. And the director said 300 out of 1,000. I mean, that's so horrendous. We can't financially. No, 3 tickets. And that was the end of that dream, truly. And then I think it was the very night then Boris Johnson said, no, you all have to go home. So I went from kind of growing up in and out of hospital, escaping that, doing drama school, getting somewhere, and then going back somehow to being like in the house again. And I was distraught, and I was really upset, and I thought, God, this is such a letdown. This is such a step back. But through my research and speaking to Ben, because I kept that relationship alive, we knew that there was a theatre director who was interested in a remount of Waiting for Godot anyway, and we communicated. We were in this production that got shut down, and then this director came on board, and we were able then to get the project back after COVID. But crucially, that director was a guy called David Glass, who Ben understood, but I didn't understand at the time. He was a really well-connected director for physical theatre, and I got to know David, and somehow, looking back, all the work I've been able to do is somehow linked to my relationship with David and Ben. So that's been the core of my kind of spider web of a network, which has led me to directing shows, performing in shows nationally and internationally. So, and I suppose in a way that's linked to my experience growing up with CF and hospital. in a way, if you go all the way back. So it's quite big. Sorry, that's it.
That's a really good story. Thank you. So starting with Helen again, I guess. What was it
I keep
about?
going first.
I'll switch it up a little bit. What was it about the creative sector that particularly appealed to you?
It's going to sound like really obvious, but I just love being creative. I don't know how else to add to that. Like, I always loved drawing when I was growing up. I always had like little sketchbooks, like little A5 sketchbooks, and even like smaller, and I'd have them in my bag. And I brought like watercolors around where, you know, the ones that you can put water in the paintbrush, you can do it on the go. I just knew I loved drawing, and that's why I went and did a foundation, because I didn't know where I wanted to go with that. And I certainly didn't expect I'd become an animator, because that's quite technical and computer based. But at first I was always like using watercolors, and like my entire degree I spent doing watercolors as well. So it's a little bit of a different direction. But yeah, I just loved drawing, and I knew that was what made me happy. And when I had that break from being creative, because I was actually working in like mental health and support work for a while, it did feel like something was missing. And I did a lot of like workshops with people, but there was always that thing where I just kept getting pulled back to being like, this isn't actually what I want to do, but I was just, you know, riding the wave, because like life is unpredictable, and as we discussed, like opportunity just comes out of nowhere. So yeah, I think that answers the question.
Thank you. Lucy.
So I guess I'd always been interested in the news, or more kind of, I'm a really curious person. And there is like a difference between being like a nosy person and a curious person. So I always kind of wanted to know, like, yeah, like what was going on with the news and things, but also just like stories of people's lives, like when people would come around to our house for meals, and I'd be like, so tell me a story, like tell me about yourself. And so just bringing stories to life, especially in a visual and creative way, really made the sector appeal to me. And more like the broadcast side than the writing side for newspapers. Is with the broadcasting, with the radio and TV, you get to use your voice to interview people, and it changes more frequently compared to newspaper, and that kind of constant change really appealed to me. But also, when I was in year 6 at school, we had this project, and it was to do with, you had to imagine, it's quite ironic now, you had to imagine there was a global pandemic, and you were stuck in school for the whole summer holiday. And so you were like the news reporter there, and you had to give updates. So you had to give yourself a name and everything. So I gave my name Sheila Cooler, and she had this like really posh accent. 'Cause you'll probably tell from my accent, I'm from the north. And so yeah, and so also like, it's a privilege to be in the sector, and especially like the media sector, to give people a larger platform to share their stories, to make a difference. A lot of news is negative, and I really like to try and find the positive, and those stories that do then change policy or campaign for things. You know, when years ago, when there was the real campaign with the CF modulators and getting those funded on the NHS, like really pushing for that. Like, the media and the journalism sector is great because it really does make a difference in a positive way sometimes. And it was after that I'd been in the newsroom. You know, it is exactly like it's in a film. I'm in London at the moment working, and it is exactly like films when you see of what a newsroom looks like. It's so much like that. It was after I'd been in a newsroom for the first time, and I got that feeling in my heart, like this is where I'm meant to be, and it just felt right. So I would say the sector found me rather than I found the sector. And only when it clicked for me in my heart was when I realised that everything I'd done had kind of led to that. But it was only like at that point that it all kind of clicked into place like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, that's really lovely. Thank you. Jack, what appealed to you?
I really empathise with that idea of the sector found me rather than I found the sector. Like, I definitely feel that as well. The truth is, I really don't have a specific answer, but I stumbled across it, actually, funny enough, a couple of weeks ago, like running a participation project in Richmond. But I just, something about continuously seeking and building community. That's what interests me. if I look at like the work that I've done over the past 5 years, all of those projects have in some way, either as a performer or a director, been related to that. And I suppose working in the performing arts sector, I don't know, was just the way that I went about it. And also just something about the fun of being able to be someone else for a bit and be paid to do it as well. Amazing. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's as poetic an answer as I can get.
No, that's really good. Thank you. Okay, I'll switch it up. Let's go Lucy first. What qualifications did you need to get started?
So as a journalist, you don't necessarily need a degree. You can do like an apprenticeship route, especially nowadays with like, when I was looking at university, it was like 2017, and it was just at the start of what I felt were sixth forms in colleges not pushing people to university as the first option, and more like apprenticeships and jobs and learning with experience, and actually knowing that, you know, exams and everything aren't what suit everyone, and if people are hands-on and practical and creative, there are different avenues to go down that are just as viable. So you definitely don't need to go to university. Like I said, I did a communication and media degree as an undergrad, but that was more looking at the psychology of how the media shapes society and about different accents and stuff. The main qualification you do need, and it kind of is like the big seal stamp of approval for journalism, is called the NCTJ, which is the National Council for Training Journalists. And this basically says whether you're in newspaper, TV, radio, online, whatever, YouTube, I guess, and you're working for an organisation, and it's good if you want to work for yourself as well to have. It basically says that you understand media law, you understand the media, and you can write a little bit in shorthand. So if I quickly split those up, so media law is what you can and can't report on. So if there's a court case, you obviously can't identify people. It's if people are getting photos taken in the public, like in a park or something, do they have the right to privacy if they're doing something in the park? Do they have reasonable expectation that they should be allowed privacy? So it's understanding things like that so that you're not putting your report in jeopardy or potentially getting sued or affecting a court case or things like that. And understanding the media, basically how it works, things like that. And shorthand is basically a different language of writing, so it's not spoken. It's so if someone's giving you quotes, or you're interviewing someone, which is like my favourite part of the job, so you can write it as quickly as they're speaking. So like it's shortened words, basically vowels are taken out, etc. I just type or record the whole interview really, but that's something good to have. So like I said, I did do 2 degrees. You don't need a degree. The BBC and other media conglomerates like Sky, ITV, ITN, any of them, they all do training schemes as well. So I got onto the BBC trainee scheme, and then COVID hit and they stopped and didn't take anyone on. So that's why I did the Masters. So I was kind of 50-50 of which route at that point. But I think as long as you're a curious individual and you want to know more about people and enjoy telling and listening to stories, that experience is kind of the most important thing that you need.
Cool. I think that's really, really useful. Thank you. Jack, what about you? Any qualifications?
Qualifications. So I went and got an undergraduate degree. I studied drama and physical theatre at a conservatoire. A conservatoire, sorry, is a posh name for artistic university, basically. You just dress in all blacks for 3 years and roll around on the floor. That's basically what you do, and feel things. So yeah, I did that. I think it is a useful thing to do. Yes, it's training, but I think even more valuable than the training, because you just learn all the time on the job anyway. Like every job that I do, I'm just like, oh, I know nothing. Cool. Okay, forget what I've learned. I think even more valuable than that, it's the people that you meet in a way, because that first job that I was telling you about, like I only got that audition because of someone that I met during my training who was involved in some way. So that's not to say, however, that that's the only way that you can go about it. I know incredible actors and incredible artists who have been successful who have had no training at all, and they're interesting as well because they don't have those restrictions on, if you see what I mean, those kind of barriers, because they haven't been taught them. So they just went out and made something, and it was amazing. So it's one of those jobs where you don't actually need qualifications to express and make art, because kids do it all the time, everywhere, all over the world. It's just we get paid for it. That's it. Yeah.
Thank you. Helen, how about you?
Sorry, just giggling at that. So like my response would be a hybrid of the two, to be honest, because I went to uni in 2008. So when I was leaving school, there was a huge emphasis on going to university. They set aside like a period of the week to actually like just be on UCAS and just look at universities. So if you didn't go to university, there was definitely a kind of an opinion you were a failure. It wasn't really like what you did if you had any prospects. So for me, that's why I did a foundation year, because I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what direction. I was interested in like teaching as well. So I did a foundation because then it was only a year. And I think that's a great idea for people if they're not sure and they want to be creative, because you had like graphic design, sculpture, fine art, and I forgot another one that's really bad. There was another like direction, obviously it wasn't one that I went in, but you spent time in like each like space, and then it was like a lot cheaper than going to university as well. And you could do that and be like, you know what, I don't want to be creative, and that's absolutely fine. You just have a great year like learning more about yourself. But with animation, I would say, like, especially now, there's so many resources out there to learn at home. So like I personally did a couple of courses with School of Motion, and if you're interested in learning how to animate, then I really recommend having a look at that, because one of the key things that's great about that is you have like a tutor. So you'll have like the projects out, and it's very like self-led. You have pre-recorded lectures, but you do have a tutor who can give you like really good feedback on your work. And that's something that you wouldn't get if you were entirely self-taught, because the thing with motion, the thing with like understanding a more streamlined way to do something, or this animation is endless. There's like so many like plugins and different things you can do, and someone could just be like, oh, have you tried that? And you probably haven't, because it's just endless. And like having that feedback, I would say, is important. So even though you can be self-taught, and loads of people are, it is really worth either doing some sort of course or finding someone more qualified than you, or someone that's like experienced, and just like getting a bit of their help, because there isn't anything like industry experience, which is kind of like Jack was saying, I guess, about being in uni and then having like your tutors and your mentors and just professionals around you who can give you that advice. So yeah.
Thank you. Just bring up the questions. Just lost all the questions. Okay, let's start with Jack this time. How has it been managing your CF alongside your role? Let's bring CF in now.
A nightmare, really. It's a constant struggle. In terms of, I think it's the nature of like freelance work that you don't really have the luxury of working hours. Like you set the time when you turn the phone off and don't answer that email, and that has its own pressures, because in a competitive, every industry is competitive, but I suppose in acting you feel the competition in a way, because there's so many of you and there's so little opportunity relatively. So you go, oh, if I don't answer this email now, I have to do my neb, but if I don't answer this email now, then someone else is gonna and there's all these kind of, and it's not real, it's in your mind, but that makes it real, if in a weird way. So it's been a struggle. I think it's just been helpful for me to realize, like, actually in my profession, my fitness and my body, my instrument, oh God, I sound like such an arty-farty person, but my instrument is my business. So I need to look after it. And that's taken me a few years of being graduated, actually going, no, stop, pull back. You don't have to fight for, everything. Like, you are enough, and actually you having CF is part of your artistic identity as well. So honor that and hold that and do what you need to do, because the work will be there when you're done. That's what I had to learn.
Totally get that. That's really cool. Helen, how about you?
So I completely like understand like the pressure of that, because so basically I didn't really mention this at the start, I didn't go into too much depth, but I started a business with my partner who's a 3D artist. So I'm the 2D artist in 2023. And so how things like got moving for us was we got funding from the government to create an immersive film. So it's like 4 walls of projections, it's about Welsh fairy tales, and it's really magical. And it's kind of like my child, because I like designed all of it, and did all the characters, the environments, did all the animation, or 2D animation anyway. So it was a crazy task. It was just so big, and I'd never done anything like that before in my life. So it was very hard to like switch the computer off, and I'm quite guilty of putting myself under like ridiculous amounts of pressure, because I have a bit like, if other people can do it, so can I, and I'm a bit of a warrior about it. And I shoot myself in the foot, because actually other people don't do it all the time, and other people do take sick days, and some people, you know, they might be late or they might clock off a bit early, and that's like totally normal. But I guess like for me, like I've had quite a complicated relationship with CF, because I've always kind of bullied myself and just been like, don't be left behind. But it's all in my head, and actually like what I'm doing is enough. And if I can sit there and go, do you know what, I've done a good job today, or actually I'm not feeling 100%, like take that time. It's like important to listen to it, because it's only you're answering to it at the end of the day, and you can't do much if you're ill. And if you're not feeling great and then you keep working and keep digging that hole, you're just going to feel terrible on the weekend, and then Monday comes back round and you're like, I'm at -10, when actually you should be completely neutral, having a normal weekend. So yeah, I think it's just, my advice is just, and I'm going to try and do this actually, I'm saying this and I still do it, but it's just like, listen to yourself, and like don't put unnecessary pressure on yourself. But sometimes it is important to work, and a part of freelancing is also, it's different to being full-time employed. And with freelancing, if you promised a certain deliverable to a client and it gets to 5 p.m. and you're not done, as a freelancer, like obviously don't work till 9, but as a freelancer, that extra half hour to keep your client happy is important. And it's about understanding when to put the time in, and understanding when actually, no, you can push back, or just say it wasn't possible, and like, just, yeah, not putting that pressure on yourself all the time. Yeah, it's a bit washing that.
A lot of important messages. Thank you very much. Lucy, how about you?
So I'm in a bit of a different situation, that I'm currently employed, but there are lots of, you know, I have been self-employed and freelance in journalism as well, and there's lots of both options. So how has it been managing my CF alongside the role? So it's been tricky at times, as the news is very demanding and it's fast-paced. There's lots of journalists, though, travel, health, it's not all 24-hour rolling news that I do. Working here is my dream job, and so with that, obviously, you take the shifts that it comes with. So I do 12 to 13-hour day shifts, and 3 in a row, and then I'll have a few days off, and then I'll do 12 to 13-hour night shifts. Now, I've been doing that for 3 years, and it's no longer working for me. In May, I was in hospital, had a 2-week course of IVs, and actually needed the rest, needed the boost, and it's done me really well. And actually, to admit I actually needed it, and I'm actually going to sit in hospital for 2 weeks. I did a load of paint by numbers, switched off, didn't watch the news, and I needed that. So I've now, after 3 years of giving everything to my career, and not necessarily, I've still been doing all my treatment, but not necessarily thinking about my health as much, just kind of doing my treatment and then getting on back to my job. I've now, and having been in hospital, it's kind of reset my priorities, you know, to the point that I'm reassessing and moving jobs and doing different things. So you've just got to remember, though, for any career you go into, that your health is the most important thing, And I don't know kind of the age of people listening to this, and you'll be at different situations, and everyone's CF is different. But it's just to remember that, like, when I was in hospital, someone was doing my job, but Lucy wasn't at home with a husband. She was in hospital. So, like, who's going to miss you more? Work would doing fine without me. So it's always like your job will be advertised if you leave, but what really matters is being with your family and being with your friends, and keeping your health as good as it can be. You know, all of us with CF are playing the long game, aren't we? We're trying to keep our health as good as it can be for the next treatment, for the therapy, for the gene therapy, for the cure. And that's why we're doing it. We're trying to keep going, and that's really important. So actually, for me to realise this job isn't working for my health anymore because I need to play the long game, I can't afford to do these night shifts, is I guess a realisation I've had. How the other way how I managed it is I've got quite a supportive family, and a supportive husband. So kind of on these long shifts, he'd make tea, he'd make my lunch that I'd take in, I'd do my physio, and then he'd wash the stuff. So I have overnight feeds, he'd get my feed ready. So a lot of support that in that respect to enable me to be able to work full time. And then I guess it's kind of also remembering that, like Helen said, we're not the only ones that have sick days. We're also, I think, as people with CF, we always think we're a bit different, and not special because we all are, but, you know, a bit different but actually there's a lot of people that have loads of different problems, you know, endometriosis, you know, ADHD. Everyone's got so many different things that actually CF's just like probably one small thing, a huge thing to us because it dictates quite a lot of our life, doesn't it, with doing treatment and things. But like in the grand scheme, everyone has everything. And I think what I've also learned this year is if you need to take a proactive sick day, if you feel like, you know, if I feel like I'm getting a sore throat and I'm going to come down with something tomorrow, I'll have that day off and rest, and then I try and find it doesn't actually get as bad further down the line. So that's kind of my tip, because they have to support you. But CF is, especially if you're employed, which I think I'm the only one on out of the three of us at the moment, but especially if you're employed, cystic fibrosis is a registered disability. So use it to your advantage. Make sure that you've got your rights, you know, speak to HR, they're on, you know, your managers, be as open as possible about it. That's helped me by opening up to my managers. They've been really supportive, helping me as well. And just like remembering, if you walk into the job knowing that your health's the most important thing, it'll help prioritise things as well. Like, I make telly, but it still runs if I'm not there, and also it's just telly. I'm not a brain surgeon. Like, if something doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world. It's like perspective as well.
Yeah, that's really good. And I really get what you were saying about like how we all think we're really different and strange, and it's just not. So I think I've done everyone with that question. Have we all? Yeah, okay. Okay, let's go to Helen now. What has been the biggest challenge for you, whether that's CF wise or just random?
I've got a bottomless list. No. So I was thinking about this quite a bit, because, like, if you ask me at any point in my life, like you asked me 5 years ago, I'd be like, this was crazy, but now I can't remember like what happened 10 years ago, and like just recent things have been the biggest challenge. But I think something for me, which is like quite relevant, is like the changing career for me, because I think I was like 29 during COVID, and that's when I went in a completely different direction. And I guess, so like what I want people to take from this is that it's absolutely fine to do that, because not everyone knows what they're doing when they're younger. Like, you don't, when you're 18 or younger, like, I'm not sure how old people are, but you're not necessarily going to know what you want to do with your life, because some people do, and that's amazing, and I'm so envious of that. But I didn't have a clue, and I've just ridden the wave, as I said before. Like, I've got like lots of jobs, and I just kind of like fell into animation, and I do love it. And actually, it's creative, but it's technical, and that's what I like. But I didn't know that. And having that career change later on, when all my friends were, you know, being promoted and getting houses, and there's me just like, I've been furloughed because I've got CF, and now I've got to change everything. And it was scary, but also I wouldn't be where I am now. I'd still be doing what I was doing. And the reality is, what I was doing, I liked, but it wasn't, I'd fallen into it. Whereas now I feel like, oh, I'm actually like animating, creating art, and like, because I'm really into like immersive stuff and like creating events, and that's actually where I want to be. So just like embrace opportunity, and it doesn't matter if you change your mind. It's important to go with changing your mind, because you don't want to be there like 5-10 years later thinking, why didn't I take that opportunity? Why? And risk is important too, and obviously calculated risk. Like, don't just don't wake up in the morning and just like, you know what, I'm quitting, because that's like maybe not the best idea. But you know, just risk is okay, and changing direction is okay, because you can always just go back to where you were, and it's not an issue, and it's your life, and just seize the day and just do what you want to do, because like no one else is going to do it for you.
Yeah.
So,
Very good, thank you. Jack, how about you?
Yeah, 100%. Seize the day. It's nice. It's great. Seize the day. Love it. I think there's a couple of things, I think, and they're not necessarily CF related. It probably just about theatre people in general, but I think everyone's heard of the thing of like, there's lots of rejection in the performing arts industry. This is a vernacular which has made its way in, which is true. There is a lot of rejection, and it's a particular skill of not tying your self-worth to outcome. Let me put it another way. It's basically like, how can you have a career that you feel like you're giving everything to, and you often get very little in return? You know what I mean? Like you put everything into a audition, you're balancing Nebs, physio, but I've got to get this audition sorted, and you get no thanks. They just go, thanks very much, no. And that's really all you get. And it's just the next one, and you have no idea when that next yes will arrive, will happen. There are ways to mitigate that, like making your own work, but even then it's like no to funding applications. There's very little ways to avoid opening yourself up to rejection in my job. So that's been a challenge, kind of going, how can I exist on that treadmill without just losing all my self-esteem? I think there was something else about also, life timelines. So I think this is an intensified problem by social media and these sorts of things, which is there is no contract to sign necessarily as a performer, freelance theatre director. There is no kind of yearly salary that you can sign on the dotted line and then you're sorted, unless you become, the associate director, executive director, artistic director of the National Theatre or a large venue, which could happen one day, but that's just not the stage that I'm at, or any graduate will be at. So it takes time to build that career, and sometimes that means not getting the mortgage at the same time as everyone else, not buying the car at the same time as everyone else. When people are buying their house, you're buying the kind of half a bed flat. Do you know what I mean? That sort of thing. And being completely okay with that, because you realize the reason that you have difficulties in this area is because you are pursuing your dream. That's what's helped me. So therefore, any problem that you have is a good problem, because I could have betrayed that dream and pursued these material things, but I've decided not to do that. That's how that realization is how I've got through those challenges.
Yeah. Sorry to chuck a row of questions out. But I was wondering how you were able to kind of get over the challenges around your self-esteem. Just like, was there a certain thing that you were kind of doing to kind of rewire yourself?
I spoke to Ben about it.
Yeah.
I spoke to Ben about it, and Ben basically, I said, oh, it's a hard job, man. It's a hard job, and he said, no, it's not. It's not a hard job. He goes, every job has ups and downs. It's simply, to be a performer, it's extreme ups and downs. And I felt that as well. So it's like when I did like the Netflix film with Bella Ramsey, when I did the job with Gecko Theatre, who were this like large physical theatre ensemble, and we toured around the UK and went international, my phone was like going off every 45 seconds, like interview, talk, yeah, like follow request, all this stuff. I was like, this is amazing. But then, and it does feel good. I can't sit here and go, it doesn't feel good. Like it feels extraordinary. But then it will end. Then your phone will go quieter than it has ever been before in your life, because people have forgot about the show that you just did. And this is this note about perspective. You know what I mean, that Lucy was talking about. You have to keep what you're doing in perspective, and actually go, things happen at the right time, in a way, and you can't rush it. So if you're in that period of, you know, no, that's fine. Getting no's is also your job. It's just not the fun part of your job.
Yeah.
That's what I realised.
Thank you. Lucy, how about you?
Yeah, just picking up on what Jack said, like the door, you know, there's always a door that opens, but sometimes you have to open that door yourself and not let someone else open it. So, you know, find your own opportunities, you know, as well, not in acting world, but just like in journalism world and stuff. If you've got a story to pitch it and make it. So a couple of things struck me, particularly like night shifts. That's the biggest challenge at the moment in terms of like changing medication times, because when you sleep you wake up normally, and then when you wake up you should be going to bed. So flipping your Kaftrio and my Calideco, I find struggling. And also eating, like, so I'm someone which is really bad that can forget to eat because I can get so busy. So this week especially I'm in London, and I've never worked in London before, so I'm here for the week and I'm like doing everything. I've outside of work as well. I've been to a West End show, I've danced at Pineapple Dance Studio, I've been like living this like Emily in Paris but more like Lucy in London life. And so I've like, which is really bad, like missed lunch quite a lot because of the shift times. I've eaten breakfast and I've had tea, but I've like picked up a quick snack, which isn't the best. So remembering to like do that stuff, and like remembering when I've not got like my family around me to be like, you need to eat, or have you eaten? It's like remembering myself. I know not everyone has that issue, and like I absolutely love food, so it's more of a convenience thing, or if I run out of time, because I try and pack too much in the day. So there's that, and especially eating on night shifts. I mean, night shifts aren't good for anyone. So I'd really just discourage anyone, if you're thinking of doing a job with night shifts, just don't. It's just really hard. It's really hard. It's 3 a.m, you know everyone's asleep, it's dark, and you're like, you might go for a wee, which for too much information, and you just sat on the toilet like, why the heck am I doing this job? Why am I not in bed? Like, my bed is calling me and I'm up sat in a chair looking at a computer. I mean, you know, there's some jobs where you will have to do it, and like I've had to do it and it's been interesting, but I can't wait to not do it. So that's been like a big challenge, kind of the mindset of going into work when your body clock changes. Like I get a bit of anxiety around that, and just like it takes my body bits of time to adjust. So like mentally I'm not very strong going into the 3 night shifts, and when you've done one you're like, oh, 2 left. Then when you're on your last one you're like, yeah, I'm nearly done, like it's great. I guess another couple of challenges are, I've done a lot of stories in the press to do with CF, making sure that I remain balanced with those stories and that they're fair. You know, like the BBC especially has the pressure of the license fee that everyone, or people who have TVs, pay, and making sure that if I'm doing a story how NHS England isn't funding a drug, balancing that up. So like, yeah, it's really unfair, and why are they not doing that is my whole opinion. But I've got to think of the other side of, oh, it's expensive or whatever, and interview that person. I was doing a story the other day on e-cigarettes or vapes, and how, you know, like they're getting banned, aren't they, like single-use vapes. and I had to interview someone who was against that, and it was really hard because I'm really against like vaping and smoking, and it was really hard to just listen to them being like, yes, but this, but that. So keeping my personal feelings out of stories. But then the other thing, and then again, this is probably something that Helen and Jack will probably also think of a little bit, but because I go into a newsroom and it's busy, is cross-infection. I find this quite a I try not to think about it too much, otherwise I get quite worried about it, if I'm honest. But like in my department, no one's ever had CF before, so they don't know what it is other than like watching 5 Feet Apart or documentaries. I signpost them to the CF Trust's website and they get more educated because it's got really good resources. But they have this preconceived idea of what CF is like, and no one really knows about cross-infection, right? They really don't. So we're in a big open plan office, and yes, I've been told by HR no one with CF has declared they have it. So I've got that thought in my head. So someone could be walking around with CF that's not declared it. So I would always say declare it to your employers anywhere. Then we have a lot of guests coming in. How do I know if they've got CF or not? Do we then start, is it going to be policy that people coming in, do we ask them, do you have cystic fibrosis? Or is that intrusive? Is that a personal question? I wouldn't think so, but some people would say that's a bit intrusive. So that goes around my head, but then I've got to counterbalance it with, I could go to a restaurant and sit next to someone and they could have CF. You look for the signs, don't you, of a cough or someone quite skinny, but none of us look the same. I think everyone here looks really well, and it's really nice to see. But and someone could be coughing because they could have a cold. Someone could be skinny because they've got anything else. Do you know what I mean? Like hereditary or just like their genes or who they are. Like there's no rhyme or reason. So it's incredibly hard. There was an instance like last year when I was in a lift going up to the canteen, and a guest was on for a different TV program that was in the same building, and her words were, "Oh my gosh, yeah, this drug's just totally changed my life. I take it in the morning and the evening. Yeah, like my lung function's great." So I like held my breath, and I was like, "What are the chances? Like 1 in 2,500. Like what are the chances?" Like I was fuming. And then she went to like the sweet section, and I was like really wanting some sweets, and she's like manhandling all the like tongs. I was like, "Mum, I can't use the tongs now." I didn't want to go into the canteen. In fact, I like went outside and cried because I was quite like overwhelmed by it. Rang my hospital, and they're like, "You'll be okay, but if you want to come and see us, like do cough swab, lung function in a week or so, like But it really like scared me, and that's something I still deal with, like. If I'm interviewing someone, can I really and it's to do with something completely different, can I really ask them before I go into their house, can I just check you don't have CF, or is it going to be obvious, or and I think that's something we all deal with in school and in life, and it's almost slightly harder when you're in work because people don't have to declare it, and because it's the parents aren't involved. And so parents normally declare it at schools and stuff, don't they? So that's also that I find that hard. And then the final thing, and then I'll stop talking about this. But putting myself out there this year, I've started to do it a lot more. I am quite confident, but it takes like someone almost to push me to go and meet people. This week I've done quite a lot of networking, and I used a kind of tool which I'd recommend called like the 5 seconds. So it basically is, if you want to do something, or if you see someone that you want to introduce yourself to, you have 5 seconds to not talk your brain out of doing it. So you basically need to count down from 5 and just start walking towards them. And it's like, too late, you're going over there now, your body's walking over, shake the hand. Whereas if you were like, "Oh, well, what do you think? What do I say? What do I think?" You've already talked yourself out of it, so you won't do it and you'll regret it. So those are my kind of challenges.
That is a long list, but thank you very, very much. I think that's really, really good to hear you talking about like cross infection and stuff. Like I'm gonna go to uni like next year, and it is freaking me out a little bit about like cross infection and all that. So it's good to hear that somebody else is also going through that. And I'm definitely gonna use that 5-second rule. That's very good.
Can I
Helen.
just like say something about that?
Yeah.
Just a second. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just thought I'd mention, like, actually my older brother has CF as well. And we've always had completely different like germs and things like that. So I've had like the complete like opposite experience, and that like growing up, like obviously it was always like cross infection. It's like we're sat at the dinner table together, you know, like it was super weird. And then like if one of us had a cough when I got home and he had a cough, I'd be like, oh for God's sake, like, I can't be in the house with him, you know. And like there was a point in COVID where he refused to be in the same room as me, and it's been very complex. But I think like the most important thing is communication, and also like you are completely right, people are everywhere, and like it's obviously really important to just be aware of your own health and look after yourself the best, but you can't guarantee everything.
Yeah.
And like I'm not saying everything's going to be fine at all, but I've kind of like every family get together has always had this like undercurrent of like cross infection and what's going on. And when I've been ill, I didn't see him throughout COVID for like obvious reasons, and like I don't know, it's like you just, I guess like I don't know where I was going with this. It's just like
Oh, Helen, you use mute.
hit my keyboard. I was so like into what I was saying, I hit my keyboard. Yeah, it is going to happen, I think, unfortunately. And it's just like a throw of the dice. It's the same as like going out with people having COVID, and just you don't want to like hide inside, but the chances are some people don't care, and you'll be on a bus and someone's going to be there on the bus who hasn't had like any kind of like immunity and has COVID and just is going about their day. So like it's really important, but also like don't like let it like stop you from like enjoying your life and living your life. Just make calculated risks and just like prepare. And if you're not feeling well, maybe don't go to that massive event, but like you should always, like the 5-second rule, like you were saying, just like put yourself out there and don't just be always terrified, because there's like so much potential for like you to do things. Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you. Sticking with you, Helen. What a little bit different. What is your favourite part of your job, career, sector?
It sounds really bad. That was a really hard question. I think I discovered that recently, because when we released our short film, we've been having like premieres in the space, and it was seeing children's reactions to our film. It honestly brought a tear to my eye, just like because I've got the 4 screens and people just like, whoa, you know, and just like playing, just looking. It was absolutely beautiful watching people enjoy it, and I realised that's why I love being creative. It's not, this is obviously corporate stuff's important. There's a role for it, and if you're given like a freelance job or like you're working a job that isn't quite what you want to do, but it's in the right sector and you're learning, that's great. But making something really beautiful and full of fairies, and then seeing people like, wow, that was the best bit.
That's really sweet. Thank you. Lucy, what about you?
Just how varied it is, like talking to different people. I enjoy making a difference, being creative, and like interviewing people. Like one day I was interviewing like Rishi Sunak, the former Prime Minister, and then the other day I was talking to a young boy who was like learning to ride his bike, and doing a charity event. So just the variety.
Yeah, that's very cool. And Jack?
Yeah, like I think exactly that. The variety. So like one day you're auditioning for a show, then you're directing a show, then you're in schools like delivering workshops. Just the sheer variety, and I guess off the back of that as well, the unpredictability. So this is just me, like, and this could be a negative for some people, but for me, sitting here going, next month I could be anywhere in the world. Probably won't be. I'll probably be here. But maybe I could be. And just that kind of maybe of being like, are you available in 3 months' time? You go, probably. Like, that's really exciting for me, but I imagine stressful for others and everyone who knows me. So it's swings and roundabouts.
Thank you. I need to get my questions again. Lucy, start with you. What would be the best tip you could give to someone looking to pursue a career in the creative sector?
I'm just looking at my list because I feel like I talk way too much, so I'd say, if I give top 3, balance is key. So make sure that you, and I'm speaking to myself as well, make sure you balance yourself and that you have time to rest, that you have time to exercise, you have time to eat, time to sleep, time for yourself. It's hard when you get an adult job and you start adulting and you've got to do your washing and your cleaning and you've got to do all that as well, and your treatment and work. You kind of feel like you don't get a break, and sometimes like that is just life as well. But actually, if you can be doing it a different way, why should you just put up with it? So always think outside the box. So yeah, balance. I'd say if you're interested in journalism or the media sector, start thinking of stories. And then if you want to work in TV, like start making little YouTube videos. You don't need to put it anywhere, but just having that portfolio and experiencing people and building your confidence with those skills. You'll have a lot more skills than you think in the area. If you like radio, on your phone, use like the voice memo app and make a little package, or online, just create a blog, do things like that. So do the things you're interested in, because that will set you apart from other people at interview stage or at just getting into the industry. And then putting yourself out there again, that was another tip. And then I'd say calculated risk, which is what Helen said earlier, but taking opportunities, changing your mind. Everyone is skilled, write to different companies, ask if you can have a look round, ask the question why, like always ask why. If someone says something, well, why do you have to do it like that? If a 9 to 5 doesn't suit you, well, why don't you look for a different job? If just keep asking why and being inquisitive.
Thank you. Good tips. Jack, how about you?
Yeah, it's such a big question. I've been listening like so intently and it's just so hard. Okay, I think this is very specific to the performing arts sector, but if there is any part of you that has a voice within you that goes, I want to tell stories in any way, just to kind of bottle that in some way, like register that voice is there. And anytime that you do something and you feel that voice getting quieter or somehow being buried or somehow being lost in some way, just to protect that. I think it's just an awareness that no matter how successful you become, that artistic flame that is alive within you is fragile. And there are lots of forces in this world that will happily extinguish that for you. It's a bit dark, but it's kind of true. It's kind of true, as in, like, I went to drama school with people who were absolutely amazing and, really talented, extraordinary individuals who were like so passionate about telling stories. And I thought they're going to just soar. They're just going to go. And they left, and the pressures of life and the pressures of bills and jobs, suddenly I get a call in 3 months going, great news, I've been promoted to manager. And I went, great, congratulations. Is that what you want? Yeah, because it means I get an extra 20k a year. And I go, okay. And then they don't do it anymore. You know what I mean? So there's lots of reasons not to do this job, which means if you have that genuine flame within you that goes, no, I want to tell stories, then that's important to listen to, because the reason to do this job is certainly not for the money, but the reason is different for everyone. So just to look after it. I'm going to leave it there, actually. Yeah.
Thank you. That was really lovely. What about you, Helen?
that made me feel slightly emotional because I've been living that for such a long time, because like being in like, because I was working with like the homeless community, I was like, I love this, I love helping people, but it's not really where I want to be. So I don't know how to follow from that. I guess like something that I would say is like stay focused, because like, as Jack said, like if you know what you want to do and you're like, this is my creative talent and this is where I want to go, it's important to not drive yourself into the ground. So like, don't pursue it and just keep going forward. If it's not working out for various reasons, like life can sometimes get in the way, and you know, maybe you do need to take up a part-time job whilst you're improving your portfolio. Don't do it to the point where it's detrimental to yourself, because if you want, it's a matter of time. I can't remember the statistic, but if you put a certain amount of hours into something, it's a matter of time until the break happens, and you'll get 500 rejections. Like I get rejections constantly, like for like projects, for funding. Like I've applied for so many jobs, and you know, it's always happening, and it's not about you really. It's about the other 500 people who've applied. You know, it's not because you're a failure, it's because someone else, maybe they just live closer, maybe there's something on there like CV that's slightly better, maybe they just undercut you slightly with their day rate. You know, there's so many reasons, and like just stay focused. And like something I wrote down as advice is kind of like, so as I mentioned, I did a degree in illustration, and in hindsight that wasn't the right degree for me, but I didn't realize it at the time, because I loved drawing, but I wasn't really thinking about the bigger picture. So I just thought, I like drawing, I want to do this, but really I should have probably done graphic design or something to that effect, or like been an animator, because that's what I am now. But I didn't really plan ahead enough. So I think you don't need to have like a concrete plan, but just know what you like doing, keep that flame alive, and just have a direction. Because if you're going around aimlessly, you might get lost and then just end up somewhere that you don't want to be, and it's quite hard to dig yourself out when you end up in that situation. So yeah.
Yes to that. 110%.
Thank you. So the next few questions we were sent quite recently. I think we'll start with Jack. How do you manage to keep to deadlines with cystic fibrosis?
Triggered. Trauma. How do I keep to deadlines? I suppose just like purely logistically, some things I can set my own deadlines for. So there are certain projects which they're ideas, they're plays that I've written that I fundraise for. I can kind of go, I want to do that in November next year, and that is a bit arbitrary in a way. I can kind of set that wherever I think it's achievable. So that's one thing. For projects that are not my own, things that I audition for, and other work, I live my life on to-do lists. That's the truth. I live my life on to-do lists, and that's the only way that I feel like I can make sure that everything that needs to get done gets done. And when I say needs to get done, I'm talking like health things and learning these lines. Like both need to happen today, and in order to safeguard that, I need to write it down. Otherwise it's just an idea. Yep, that's me.
Thank you. I love a to-do list. Helen, how about you? Deadlines?
Such a difficult one. Because like at the moment I work part-time for an agency in the office, and I'm also running my business at the same time, so I'm stretched like this thin, like constantly. And I like, you know, like I'm in the office today and I come home like, oh, I'll do this now, you know, and working weekends. And I think like it's difficult because the right thing to say is obviously like health come first, but sometimes you've just got to put the time in. And like I think the important thing is that you buy the time back. So like my advice would be, because like sometimes, you know, you just have to get it done and there's no way around it, and you feel a bit rubbish, and it's like Friday and like your deadline today, and you don't want to upset your client because you want the returning customer. And your client, especially freelance, like obviously if you're not well, you're not well, but then they might have their client and you're doing the work for them, and it's a chain effect. So I think my advice is to understand when to take the time, because sometimes it's fine and sometimes you just gotta get on with it and it sucks, but then take the time after and just like listen to your body. And if you are feeling really tired and it's just not, obviously if you've got to go into hospital, you've got to go into hospital, and like you should 100% go in. I just mean on the day when you're just struggling a bit more, just it will like, just make sure you have it eventually. And like, I don't know if that's the best advice. I feel like it's really bad advice, but I guess I'm just coming from the perspective of someone that's like literally doing both at the moment. It's like, can be just ridiculously hard to manage. And I try to just make sure like I just stay on the wheel. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's like really good advice.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
That's good. Lucy, how about you?
I think be organised. I have loads of tabs open in my mind, so kind of to-do lists as well. You know, if you think about like how do I manage them, it's also about like being efficient with your time, blocking out, I'm going to do my physio for 45 minutes, then I'm going to do this, you know, kind of mapping, just being organised with your time. I think people with CF are so determined, like Helen was saying, kind of on the wheel, like we just want to do everything. And like, I think what I've learned is like, how do I manage to keep deadlines when CF slows me down? I sometimes let it slow me down. I sometimes don't hit the deadline. But do you know what happens is someone else will pick it up and hit the deadline. Or it actually wasn't a hard deadline, so it didn't really matter. So I think just doing your best, drinking lots of water, carrying some snacks with you that are healthy as well. But it, you know, let it slow you down if it needs to. It's really not the end of the world.
Yeah, thank you. It's really important. I think Lucy will just stay with you. How do you fit in nebs and physio and things with such a big schedule and such busy lives?
Well, yeah, because of all my shift times and things. So I have some shifts that start 6 in the morning, so I have to get up at 4:30. I have some shifts at like 10 a.m. till 10 p.m, so they're all right in the morning, but I'm tired in the evening. And then I have some of the night shifts. So relying on other people, there's this big thing. And again, like, I don't know if anyone listening, when you moved from pediatrics to adults, it was the expectation like you had to do everything yourself and kind of be independent. But actually, I feel like I rely on people more than ever. If you don't have anyone to rely on, that also doesn't matter, because however you do you in your treatment, you'll know how to balance it and what to do. I also think, so I don't have any nebulizers apart from DNAs. That's hard to fit in, right? Because you've got to wait an hour after your physio. So if you miss it in the morning, you're a bit stuffed in the evening. I think I struggle with this one as well, though, fitting it all in. I think I have a really good relationship with my CF team. So when I got all this job and I talked through the shifts, and like the physios chatted to me about, well, maybe a quicker type of physio you could do in the morning and then a longer one in the evening, and actually take your tablets at that time when you get to work, so it saves you. I mean, I'm notorious for being last minute. I mean, even if I didn't have CF, I'd be like whistling around the house, like not doing anything. So I'm interested in what the other panelists have to say of this, because I'll probably take some notes from them.
Thank you. How about you, Jack?
I am trying to find a nicer word to describe my approach, but I can't find it. I have to attack it. I really do. So it's like, after I don't know, I wake up in the morning and I can't, I don't know, I just don't have the kind of nice morning. I don't sit down and like, you know, take a minute to, you know, get my bearings. Maybe I should. I'm working on myself, but I don't know. I just have to kind of get up and just go, right, I just gotta, you know, get this neb. And just like dance choreography, it gets quite skillful. You can get quite quick with it. Like, you know, the thing in that hand, pop that, get that. So, you know, I've just got quick at doing that because it's the routine, I suppose. Yeah. And then like coming home from rehearsal again, like I don't want to do it, but I just know I have to I have to. So I kind of just attack it. It's yeah. I wish I had a kind of nicer, more reassuring answer, but I just know that I need to do it, and I make the time to do it because I know it's important, and the process of that is not always graceful. That's the truth.
Fair enough. Thank you. Helen, how about you?
I'm gonna struggle with this answer. So like with like my medication, one thing is I'm like, my life used to be really chaotic. I had 3 jobs for like quite a few years, and I was working like 12-hour shifts 5 days a week kind of thing. And it was just, I was really struggling to do my medication. So like one thing, and this is so obvious, like when I'm saying it, I've always just got it in like a pouch, and I make it really super easy for myself, and I can't mess it up because it's under the kettle. So when I make my cup of tea in the morning, I literally look at it. So I can't. I'm quite bad with my evening stuff. Like I could forget that because if I'm somewhere, like. So I'm a working in progress with my evening medication, but I think it's just like make it as convenient as possible for yourself. And also, another thing is I've become like so open about my health with people around me because I got like really ill like due to other reasons like 5 years ago, and I was in and out of hospital for months and time off work, etc. And I made a blog at the time, and it's a little bit of like a coming out story, I guess, because like a lot of people had no idea I had CF. And like one of my friends I invited into the hospital, and he was just like, "Hell, like no offense, but why are you here?" And I was just like, "Wait, you don't know? I've literally known you for 10 years, and you had no idea, you know." And I think you just assumed I had a cough, or like if I was off, like it wasn't a thing, kind of thing. So I think being really open, and like I went to a hen do a couple of weeks ago, and I put my Creon on the side. I didn't even think twice about it. I just walked in and put my tablets on the side, and they just went back, and no one even questioned it. And I think, like for me, that's the thing, to just like being secretive. Like when I was younger, was it was silly, but I guess it was like a maturity thing, and it's taken me a while to like become like I am now about it. But just like make life easy for yourself. Like write a list if you need to, you know, just have it there ready, because then you're not scrambling like to try and like fit it in. It's like that.
Yeah, thank you. So
just before we kind of move on to that final question, I just wanted to just add a couple of points just from a kind of CF Trust perspective and a work forwards perspective. So you know, there's been some really great kind of contributions from the panel members on that question. I just also wanted to kind of make you aware that we have just recently opened up our Helen Barrett Bright Ideas Award. And potentially that's something that you could access to kind of help support pursuing that idea. It's exactly the type of provision that we've created to help members of the CF community to explore passions, whether they be creative or anything else that could potentially turn into the seeds of a business. And so if you're thinking of pursuing those creative passions in a way that could lead into business, I would recommend checking out and considering potentially funding that kind of venture through the Helen Barrett Bright Ideas Award. A lot of our previous winners have been based within the creative sector, and even, you know, some of the people that are on the call today have kind of successfully gone through that process. So please do bear that in mind. I think the other thing that I would add is our Work Forwards program provides kind of support in people kind of changing career, people looking to kind of try out new things, and so do reach out to us if you'd like some kind of support with the steps that you might want to take to again pursue that, or if you know, redundancy, and you decide that you want to look for another job. Again, that's something that the Work Forwards program we can provide support with through our employment advisor, Gina. So again, if that's something that you'd be interested in tapping into, just reach out to us, and we can schedule in a conversation separately to kind of look at the best ways that we can support you, and talk through the potential avenues that you might want to consider.
Oh, thank you. Then final question that I've seen. If someone's creative but not sure what creative direction to focus on, what tips would you suggest to help them figure out kind of what they want to do in the industry? I'll just throw it out.
I can answer that one first. I just go off personal experience here, like doing my foundation year was great. It just like gave me that experience in like lots of different things and let me think. There's also like, do you want to like be creative full time, or is it a hobby? And actually, if you started doing it, because that's what I've struggled with massively, because it's something that I have struggled with still. It's just like once it becomes a job and it's like, oh, now I get home, I'm like, the last thing I want to do is be creative. I've been creative all day, and it's like, which sounds terrible, but it's just the truth. But I just think like experiment, and there's so many courses out there, and like you don't necessarily have to spend like loads of money to just like explore, but it's important to explore and to not necessarily just define yourself straight away, because like you've got time. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'd maybe say that so I've done this multiple times, so I've created like a vision board of what I enjoy, but also like a Venn diagram. So it's basically 3 circles that you interloop, a bit like the Mercedes logo. And the first circle you'd put what you enjoy, and you just spend a minute writing down the things you enjoy. The second circle you'd put what you're good at, so you'd write down your skills. And then the third one you put what you bring to the world. So what do you as a person add to this world? And then you look in the little joins between the circles, and then the skills that you see in all 3, the middle one is generally what makes you you, and like what gives you the flame, like Jack was talking about, to do something. It's your passion. So have a go at that as well if you don't know, and it might help narrow ideas down.
And then I guess, and then building on what Lucy's saying, it would probably come after that step, but then just like, it's a bit cringe, but just email people, like introduce yourself. Goodness knows, this is actually just a practice that I do 3 times a week. This is one of my weird to-do listy things, but I on purpose write an email. Sorry, let me close that. I on purpose write an email that I don't think this person is going to reply to. And most of the time they don't, but sometimes a casting director who's just won an Olivier Award will email you back, like, once every 3 months, so you have to be prepared to be ignored a lot, but, just, hi, nice to meet you, what you are interested in, what you're passionate about. Can I shadow you for a day on your next project? Most people will either ignore you or say no, but that person who says yes or no, however, that will be the first key in the lock, I think. That's what I do.
Thank you. Full of good tips. Thank you very much. I think that is the end of our questions. Thank you, panelists. Lovely to meet you. I'll pass back to Jimmy now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I have to say, we've gone for pretty much 90 minutes and it has absolutely flown by. So I don't want to encroach on the attendees and the panelists kind of evening for any longer than I need to, but it's been absolutely fantastic. I could have sat listening to all of the contributions for I could have kept going for another half an hour. It's been absolutely phenomenal. So thank you to all involved. Gina has posted a very short feedback survey for those that have attended. If you have got the a few moments to spare, please fill that out so that we can continue to improve our program offer and look to schedule sessions that are relevant to the CF community. We'll for those that have left, the recording will be available once we've kind of gone through all the kind of processing, and the video will also be available online at a later date, but we will kind of do some edits around that to protect kind of anonymity and stuff like that. Just wanted to say a huge thank you again to Tilly for being an incredible host, and to Helen, Lucy and Jack for your candidness and some really great discussion points and tips for anyone who's interested in pursuing a career in the creative sector. It's been phenomenal. So yeah, I hope everyone has a fantastic evening. Take care, and yeah, anyone that's wanting creative support, get into the creative sector or any other sector, reach out to the Work Forwards program. We'll do all that we can to be able to kind of help you to realise those dreams and ambitions. Take care. Good evening. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye.